Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times raved, "This movie absolutely blindsided me." The Chicago Tribune's Dave Kerr called it a light, slight premise that seems more suited to a Saturday Night Live sketch than a full-length movie. While Washington Post critic Rita Kempley called it deeply vapid, with the emotional consistency of styling mousse. On this episode of Ruined Childhoods, we decide the fate of Back to the Beach.
Sequel. Reboot. Which one will it be? It's the Ruined Childhoods podcast.
Greetings, starfighters.
Greetings, beachgoers, surfers.
Yeah. Greetings, dudes.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about Back to the Beach, a movie that Dan, you and I mean, have such a wonderful connection to. It's been in our hearts and on our minds for since 1987.
In our photo albums.
And our photo albums, which we're going to post to Instagram. Yeah. And Dan, who do we have with us on this episode?
So we'd like to welcome to Ruined Childhoods, Mr. Ray DeJohn, coming to us from Austin, Texas. Ray, how are you, my friend?
Gentlemen, good evening. I need to start this by taking a little umbrage as to my appearance on this particular episode. I was waiting for an invitation for maybe Real Genius, or one of the Karate Kids, or One Crazy Summer, about which I could speak pretty much ad nauseum, even in just kind of preparation for the show, listening to the last couple episodes with your role reversal podcast.
Oh, that one.
I could have easily dropped in with a musical verse of By the light of the silvery moon,
yeah.
Your sister June dropped her pants in my room.
Okay.
But alas, here I am, and I do wonder why I'm at this particular podcast, but happy to be here.
I'm going to leave that to Dan.
Well, I mean, so all of the movies that you listed, so like, you know, we have a list. We've got this long list of possible movies to cover, and we have names of people who we know who are like, okay, like we got to have and all the movies that you mentioned, like you're on there for. We haven't done any of them
yet. Well, I hope so.
So Back to the Beach.
This is your audition to be on one that you actually care about.
Yeah. You want to be on the Real Genius show? Well, like, show us what you got.
I better bring it today. Absolutely. And my musical rendition of By the Light hasn't gotten me in there yet, so I got to kind of bring my A game, I guess.
No, we still have a whole hour plus to go of this audition.
Yeah, no, we've got ways to go. But so I remembered, John asked me too. John was like, so I like, you know, what are Ray's qualifications?
And I mean, no offense by asking
you.
that question,
but just like, why, you know, like to have Cesar Gracia on for Scarface, the guy did one-man shows as Al Pacino.
Yes,
doing,
and saw them as well. Yeah.
So, like, no question there. But anyway, I was like, Ray is the only person outside of our immediate family that I know that, like, not just, like, has seen the movie, not just likes the movie, but has some type of affection for it. Because I remember we've quoted it.
It really goes back to, yeah, as you've noted many times on your show, it was about having HBO on as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
And this movie played on repeat. Meanwhile, you know, when you asked me to do this, I'm like, cool, I have to rewatch this. Thank you, John, for that. Well, then I go down a fucking rabbit hole of Frankie and Annette, and I'm watching all of it, you know, and I know we're going to get into all the stuff about what happened to them, but then just all of the Entertainment Tonight stuff with her MS, and I'm weeping, and it's just... It becomes this huge kind of spiral, you know?
Right. So I also want to note something else. So Dan and I both saw you in person on our trip to Austin in February of 2020, right before the
good old
world
days.
got put on hold.
The cusp
right on the cusp. And we had an excellent time together hanging with you.
Back when COVID was just a whisper. Yes.
And also that happened to be when Dan and I were recording our episode with our brother Scott about the Pee Wee Herman verse. So this movie is like another tie-in to that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you want to talk about gratuitous drop-in nothing cameos.
Right. But also I want to say that cameo was what probably got us in that theater to begin with. Because we were not Frankie and Annette fans.
Right.
We were Pee Wee Herman fans.
Naturally.
I had never seen Beach Blanket Bingo or anything.
That's the name of the game, Dan. That's the name of the game.
I mean, prior to this past week, the only time that I had seen any of that movie was the clips that they show in Good Morning Vietnam.
Right.
So I was like, that's what I knew. Yeah.
I also my only other Frankie and Annette experience was in the Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas special, where he basically has them as like workers making Christmas cards, and he's like a taskmaster to them, and it's amazing.
Welcome back to my cool Christmas special. I'm with my special guests, Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello.
What are you guys doing?
We're making Christmas cards with Terry and Globey.
I'm using the stencil process. The stencil I'm using looks like a Christmas tree. I lay it on the card, dip my toothbrush in green paint, and brush it on this piece of screen. Look, isn't this pretty?
Yeah.
I hope you remember to wash that toothbrush before you brush your teeth, though.
Oh, that's a good idea.
What are you making, Frankie?
I'm making cards out of a potato.
What?
Well, you see, first I kind of cut a candy cane shape out of the potato, like this. Then I simply dip it into some red paint, just like that. And then I print it onto some paper, and look, a candy cane. See?
Potato-y.
I hope you don't forget to wash that potato before you eat it.
All right. I'm going to have to separate you two. Now get back to work. I need 500 of each of those by sundown.
500?
They're working in Pee Wee's sweatshop.
Yeah, I love the fact that they have this this relationship, and also with co-star and Back to the Beach Lori Loughlin on Full House, where they've made several appearances, which is such a bizarre thing that I'm only realizing now, where it's like, what was with the like writers for Full House that they thought, I know what kids like?
Well,
the teeny boppers from the 60s.
yeah, the Beach Boys coming in with Stamos drumming.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Frankie and Annette.
All the Elvis references. I mean, that show was like one of those where they were like, okay, we're going to have grown-up stuff for the grown-ups and we're going to have kids stuff for the kids. And she's going to say ice cream and then he's going to get to drum with the Beach Boys. But
it's a very specific type of older audience that they're going for.
But think about this, John, too. I like, when we're talking about this, we talk about this scope and, this kind of how we view history is when we were kids, Full House was a show that was on in the 80s, which was closer to the 60s than we are to the 80s now, discussing all these movies.
Yeah.
Time is a flat circle, I understand, but like we are way far removed from the 80s. As opposed to they were from the 60s.
It's the 20-year like retro cycle, which is crazy because I'm thinking about it now and I'm like, wait a second. So like, is that like the Strokes now?
Jeez.
And here we start again. Yeah.
Well, okay. Before we go any further, it's just occurring to me that most of our listeners have never probably seen Back to the Beach, because I don't think that this is one that was on many people's radars. So why don't I do a synopsis, and then we can kind of launch into all of the insanity that we have on our minds about Frankie, Annette, and the gang.
I'm anxious to hear you make sense out of this synopsis.
Oh, please do.
This is a very basic layout of kind of what happens, but this movie, what our dear listeners need to understand, it's it's an absurdist comedy. It's it's out there, it's surreal, things don't make sense, it's meta, but also it's like, I don't know, it's not quite parody, but it dips into it. It kind of just like spreads itself over a bunch of different areas in the world of comedy, and it does it incredibly so, I have to say.
It's cameos, gags, and songs shoehorned into sand. That's what it is.
Well, which is basically what it comes out of.
Flip-flop horned.
It's the origin, yeah.
All right, so Frankie Annette used to be hotshots in the 50s and 60s. He was a teen singing sensation, and she was a beloved Mouseketeer. But time ticked on, and they needed to grow up. They started a family together in Ohio. Now, Frankie owns a Ford dealership, and Annette cares for their son, Bobby, providing him with plenty of Skippy peanut butter, a reference to her spokesperson deal years prior. They also have a daughter named Sandy, who lives at their old stomping grounds, the California beach. With Frankie burnt out from work, the three Midwesterners decide to take a vacation, making a quick stop to visit Sandy in LA. But when they get there, their worlds are turned upside down. Frankie blows his top when he discovers that Sandy is living with a guy and is only brought out of his funk when he sees his old beach pal, Connie Stevens, who has always had a major crush on Frankie, though to her, he's the big kahuna. This causes tension between him and Annette, especially since they missed their flight to continue on to Hawaii. The two decide to part ways, leaving Annette and Sandy to have a pick-me-up pajama party while Frankie drowns his sorrows in fruity cocktails. All the while, Sandy and Michael decide to split up after they disagree about their priorities. The next morning, Frankie wakes up hungover in a surfer wave patrol office where he encounters Michael, Sandy's fiancé. Though they butt heads at first, Frankie comes around on Michael particularly fast. Meanwhile, Sandy, Annette, and Bobby take to the beach, where Bobby becomes fast friends with a group of surf punks who claim ownership of the beach. After a series of jealousy-inducing moments between Frankie and Annette, Frankie decides that the only way to get her back is to have a bonfire-centric beach party. Frankie and Michael make the arrangements by tricking the harbor master, and the party is on. Frankie's plan works, and Annette is impressed. Sandy has also agreed to take Michael back after their big spat. There's just one problem. Bobby has fully committed to the punk beach gang, who are all tired of everyone taking up space on their beach. Frankie proposes a surf-off. Their best surfer versus Michael. But when Frankie breaks Michael's foot with a bongo drum, it's up to Frankie to surf, something he hasn't done since the 60s when he came face-to-face, or board to water, with the humunga cowabunga from down under, a massive wave from Australia. The next day, Zed, the gang's leader, and Frankie are ready to surf.
Spoiler alert.
Okay. Zed does a mediocre but passable job on the waves. Frankie, on the other hand, seems hesitant and won't take any waves at all. But suddenly, the humunga cowabunga from down under appears, and Frankie takes it like a champ. The big kahuna wins, the beach is theirs, and everyone sings a song of joy, literally. So.
And again and
Thanks,
again.
Ray. John, and again and again.
John, yeoman's like work trying to cobble together a storyline out of that 90-minute piece of dog shit. Well done.
Oh, no, Ray,
Well
it is
done.
not dog shit.
Oh, but we love the dog shit. It's
Oh,
okay.
it tastes
but
so
we
good.
have
Hold
to
on.
call it what it is, John.
Hold on, because let's not forget the where this movie comes from, because compared to its predecessors, so just a little backstory here. So this is not a direct sequel. It might have been had Orion Pictures, who owned the rights to the beach movies, decided to make it. But therefore, I mean, Frankie can still be Frankie because that's his name. Oh no, right.
He is not credited, nor does anybody ever call him Frankie in the movie.
Big
That's
kahuna.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And
they don't.
He is the big kahuna, and he's credited as Annette's husband in the credits.
Right.
And she is not Dee Dee as she is in the beach movie. She's Annette.
So
She
they
gets to
own
be
those
herself.
names, and so that's why they couldn't, which is crazy. It's his name.
Insane. I love it.
Yeah. So I always forget that they don't call him. That they never say his name.
Not
in the movie.
once.
But
And
no.
I didn't realize that until the last viewing. I'm like, they're not
Or-
calling him Frankie. It's Dad
Or Dad.
it's, but never
Kahuna,
once is he called Frankie.
And okay, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No, I wanted to. So I just wanted to point out some of the things that I jotted down while watching Bikini Beach and Beach Blanket Bingo. So first of all, cameos, random cameos. Nothing new because we've got Boris Karloff and Stevie Wonder,
Buster Keaton.
Well, I don't know if Stevie Wonder would have necessarily been a cameo because he wasn't really.
Stevie Wonder was like
Stevie.
Dick Dale. Well, yeah, he was, but it was kind of like how it's like, oh, Dick Dale is here. Okay, here's little Stevie. But still, I mean, it's a cameo. Like he was, people knew who he was at that point.
He was a figure,
And it's weird because like there's some like you've got Don Rickles who's not playing himself, but he plays Big Drop where he operates like a club and a skydiving operation in Bikini Beach. And then
in Big Drop, Big Drop is Beach Blanket Bingo.
The racetrack.
Big
He does
Drag.
the racetrack. The big drag.
He's
Big Drag. And then he's Big Drop in Beach Blanket Bingo. There's other people who are like the same character. There's this one girl, Donna, who pops up in all the movies just to sing a song. And she's got this, really nice, Helen Reddy voice. And she pops up.
Bonehead, is that his name?
There's
Goofball.
Bonehead, who gets rescued by spoiler alert, gets rescued by a mermaid.
It was 55 years ago, man.
I know. No. But so he's with a mermaid. Meanwhile, in Bikini Beach, you've got a monkey that drives a Rolls Royce. The monkey does so much shit. You've got this character, Potato Bug.
I love Potato Bug. First of all, their vitriol for the Beatles and British garage rock is amazing.
Potato Bug is the Beatles all in one. It's like all four Beatles played by Frankie. One. Yeah, played by Frankie.
Most of the time.
Bikini Beach also boasts an all bald surf rock band. And they kick ass.
Oh yeah. Although they start off with the mop tops, but they're just wigs. It's okay.
Oh right. Basically, Bikini Beach plays like an episode of the Monkees without.
I was going to say
the band. The Monkees, just a monkey.
Well, these movies definitely feel like just long episodes of the Monkees or Gilligan's Island, which makes a lot of sense because Bob Denver is very much in Back to the Beach.
And just before we leave kind of the old beach movies, there's this great point in Beach Blanket Bingo where Don Rickles just goes into an act. He just goes in he does a shoot act. He goes up to Frankie. He goes, "What are you doing? You're 42." What are you doing running around here? You're 42.
I honestly haven't seen all of Beach Blanket Bingo since probably 2002. So I watched the opening of it and I was like, and just to try to muscle through it for this so we get this, I was like, there's no possible way I can get through this movie because I couldn't get through it then. Because look, it's so much of its era. It's the Elvis, Hawaii thing. You know what I mean? Except it's taken a much more bubblegum, less, worse songs, all that stuff. And it takes this kind of this trope and just, okay, the script is fine. Go, go entertain the kids. Take your shirt off, Frankie. And that's kind of all it is, right? It's that fodder. Like at the end of, and it's not spoiler alert, but but when Annette talks about wanting to be bad, and Connie's like, you got a great rack, you wasted it,
Yeah. You know what? It's funny because as you're talking about them and describing them, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, it's kind of like, well, what's the modern counterpart? And I'm like, is the Fast and the Furious franchise the modern of just like ridiculous shit happening out of nowhere?
I think they probably wanted to recreate the genre with From Justin to Kelly, but we weren't ready for that at the time.
Wow, forgot about that.
I was just thinking, I was like, kind of makes me think of Fast. At the end, it's all about family,
But it's a vapid. You live your life quarter mile at a time. It's a vapid, zero, all car action, all the time, no plot whatsoever. Or if it is, it's completely, diarrhea style loose. It's just. They're complete genre movies, right? And it's not It's all theme, it's all character, it's zero plot, right?
Well, and they even they call it out in Back to the Beach. And Annette, one of the things I love about the script actually is how much it calls out the tropes of the genre when Annette's like, oh, honey, have I taught you nothing? Because no, this is what's going to happen because now your father's going to burn something to get my attention. And and she's calling out because like I was keeping a list. I was like, there are definitely like tropes of the genre that just pop up in every one. And then watching Back to the Beach, it's like, oh, she's calling them out as they happen.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole meta aspect of this movie is what makes it work so well. The self-awareness that they have. You know, I of course in 87 when this came out, maybe it was more fresh in people's minds that she used to hawk Skippy peanut butter.
Yeah. I mean, that was like 70s, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, it was relatively, I mean, within a decade, no?
I know. I think it was in 1980, around there,
mid 80s. I remember Annette Funicello's.
I do remember that as well. Yeah.
So it had to have been like mid 80s.
Yeah, but like last night I watched the movie with Laura, my wife, and I had to like kind of pause it every now and then and just be like, so yeah, Annette Funicello used to, endorse Skippy peanut butter, and that's why that's funny, because when this came out, people would have remembered that, and so it's that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate that Bobby had to pull off that terrible acting hack job to say what it was.
Demian Slade,
yes,
who plays Bobby, I love him so much. We mentioned at the end of the last episode, he was also in Better Off Dead. He's the $2 kid, famously.
That should be his claim to fame. It should not be this.
I don't think this is it.
Wonderful.
I think that is his claim to fame.
It's definitely the $2 thing.
The less he says, the better.
I strongly disagree. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah,
we can disagree about this. It's okay, but I want you to imagine in your mind's eye the darkness that a better child actor could bring to the. I know what it is. Because it's that way every day. Like just the darkness he can bring to that.
Maybe he shouldn't have been.
What
maybe
did you want?
He should not have.
Edward Furlong, like.
Well, no, he was too young at the time.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna play this clip. I'm gonna play this clip of him when he,
actually Corey Feldman would have been a great Bobby.
Yeah,
he would have been a great Bobby, but he reunites with his family, and he is fully in this gang now.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Eat sand, lamos! Bobby, you get down from there right this instant.
My name isn't Bobby anymore. I've got my gang name. Call me Surly.
Shirley? Your name is Shirley? Bobby is a tougher name than Shirley.
Not Shirley, it's Surly! Surly! God! Man, I've changed my gang name. My new gang name is... Knife. Call me Knife.
Nice? You want us to call you Nice? Okay. Nice hairstyle, Nice.
It's not nice! It's not nice! Man, just forget it. Call me Bobby.
I love the way he delivers that line. Oh, man, just forget it. Call me Bobby.
I don't know if it's a deviated septum issue that is coming across here. I don't know,
okay, all right.
What my issue is.
Okay, I think he's fantastic.
Well, good for you. I'm sure he'll thank you too.
I do want to say for him though, and one wonderful thing about the characters, first of all, the parents totally forget that they've got like a 12-year-old. He's not even like a full-blown teenager. He's basically.
Why wouldn't they forget? Apparently they forgot their flight because they were on the beach for like a week and a half and they had a 10-hour layover.
Well, because mystically, whatever happens whenever they get to California Beach is they end up playing these psychological sex games with each other where they're like, it's so crazy because they're like, oh, I absolutely love your father and I'm going to make him suffer. And he's just like, oh, well, screw you. I'm going to go hang out with her. And
time stops.
But they do it in every one of these movies is this was like, oh, well, so Frankie's like openly hitting on other women in front of Annette. So Annette's like, well, I'm going to rub up against this guy over here. And speaking of
Troy.
Jesus.
You know they make a drink here called the stunned mullet. Serve it in a coconut shell. Well, I once saw a woman drink one of these, take off all her clothes, and dance the pony right here on this very table.
And your point is?
Point is, I'd like to buy you 2 of them.
That's very generous of you in a sleazy kind of way. But my husband and I have a plane to catch soon.
Oh, say, hey, if a dynamite-looking chick like you was married to a totally bitchin' dude like me, you wouldn't be alone for a minute. Catch my drift? I dig chicks. Chicks dig me. Digging them. Dig.
Dan, when he says that line, does in your mind go to the beginning of Everybody Ought to Have a Maid from Funny Thing Happens on the on the way to the forum? Maids
I like maids.
I'm
maids like me. Yeah.
Wow.
It hadn't before, but it will now.
Oh, good. Happy to help.
No. No. I mean, man. Oh boy, Troy. If Troy was a real person, then I during the Me Too movement, I hope he went into hiding.
We have to understand everything in its context, you know, and so we can make apologies and have all of these kind of disclaimers and whatnot, but he's a sleazebag on a beach in the 80s.
Right. And
He's
it's
a comedy.
played.
It's a, yeah.
Yes. It's understood that this guy is terrible.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
you know, it's
And
very well established.
Yes. Small penis syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Right. But it is an archetype found in all of these movies as well.
I mean, really, other than his, like lack of awareness of boundaries or anything like that, he's actually like, he's got this sweet setup on the beach. He's got comfortable chairs, and he ends up like he's an all right guy. He ends up being like, he gets to sing in the closing number. I mean, well, Zed, hold on. Have we never talked about how Zed is Sandy's landlord?
Oh, wow.
Is he? Oh, well, yeah, I guess because he owns the bait shop and tattoo
that she lives above.
Yeah, that's true. And he lives next door because when they're having the pajama party, they all come out of that,
But he's respectful. He's respectful when he dances with Annette.
He absolutely is. He looks like a real fun time. He does.
I wonder what Zed's doing these days. He opened a preschool.
Well, and it's funny you mention that because they do have an on-the-beach daycare. It's like 75 cents an hour, and it's with like the big guy,
like Master Blaster or whatever from the Road Warrior. Yeah, but how quickly did they all of a sudden like turn Bobby, like they just turn everything, like Bobby becomes president. Bobby's sitting around, he's like 3PO in Return of the Jedi with the Ewoks, and he's telling them about the cherry bomb, and they are
the cherry bomb scene is so good.
You take this cherry bomb and you stick it in the girl's john.
What are you doing, man?
By the way,
didn't know that, first of all?
I
all these
love it.
hard, tumbled freaking punks didn't know about a cherry bomb?
Why are they so impressed by
but
this?
it's not just the cherry bomb. It's how to make it go off later so that you're far away from where the scene of the crime.
The things they teach you in Ohio, man. I tell you.
And speaking of, is he not wearing a hat with a Nazi insignia on it? Like,
yes,
good Lord. Okay.
Is he not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making
was it
sure
the hat or the vest? I couldn't remember.
The hat. It's the hat. He's got like that biker's. He's got like that biker's cap, and it's got like with the eagle. I forget what the actual name of it is.
Right.
But definitely a Nazi with like with the talons gripping the swastika. By the way, not the first Nazi reference in this genre, because in was it like, I think I don't know if it's Beach Blanket Bingo or Bikini Beach, where Eric von Zipper hangs out in a pool hall that has like a framed portrait of Hitler on the wall.
Right. So this gang, this surf punk gang, is certainly the new version of the Rats, the like biker gang from the originals, where a like 50-year-old man is supposed to be an illiterate teenager.
But like also and not to whatever, disclaimer, but in the 60s it was relatively a thing to make the bad guys Nazis, right? I mean, it was just if it became that kind of trope.
Yeah.
the producers, it's 1968, you know, and when you're making a joke out of people, like that's kind of what you label them with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I think I don't fault them for this. Yeah, but he's definitely like, and he speaks with this diction. It's from like Guys and Dolls is really the only thing I can think of where I've heard that diction. Like, they will be sorry if they do not refugate the beach.
Very Runyon-esque in
Infatusively. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some more of the cameos, because that's definitely a big part of this. And
so
I want to
tried to make a list from beginning to end. So Dan, go ahead and tell me what I missed too, but go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's some of the cameos where the characters, where the people are like just playing themselves, and then others where they're playing characters, and then others where they're playing old characters, because I'm pretty sure Bob Denver is actually playing Gilligan in this.
Well, I mean, especially with what happens at the end.
Right.
You know.
And let's hear that.
So that's the whole story. I just thank God it's all over.
I think you're very brave.
Well, I know I just met you, but I love you. Would you be my main squeeze?
I never thought you'd ask.
We've got to shove off, little buddy.
Oh, no, not you, not now.
I'm sorry, it's time to go. Now, we'll be back real soon. It's only a 3-hour tour.
It's never a 3-hour tour.
Come on, let's go.
If I
Pour
may,
one out, gentlemen. Pour one out.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Pour
yeah,
two out.
Pour two out. Yeah. If I may,
you may.
What's really interesting about this movie is that, first of all, we are apparently accepting Gilligan's Island as reality and canon here, but it is also referenced as a TV show earlier when Michael is when Sandy's like, no, my mom's staying here, and like you have to go, and he's like, wait a second, I thought they started as a 3-hour tour, and now who knows when they're leaving? Is this the plot of Gilligan's Island?
Yes.
So
no regard for any canon whatsoever.
Look,
no, does not matter.
The
script supervisor was drunk. It does not matter.
Okay, here's the thing. In a movie where a character comes in just to sing a song and then shoots off into space,
I have no...
all bets are off.
Look, I'm sorry. I do not... Anything that I point out, any of these anomalies just make me love the movie more, because that's what it is.
Because we can't talk about this... We can't talk about this as a real film. It's its own entity. Like
it's its own very special thing.
Yes, it is. It is completely unique in every way imaginable. In that we cannot make neither heads nor tails. All we can do is marvel at moments.
Now, speaking of moments, perhaps I don't know. Maybe it was funny because to think there was a period of time when the Pee Wee Herman cameo would have been considered the most controversial, and not necessarily problematic, but oh boy.
This was talking about how there's back in the day.
Are you talking about how there's a murderer in this movie?
I am.
Let's get to that for a second.
Yeah,
because correct me if I'm wrong, but is that or is not the first cameo?
It is, film. Yeah, it's the first one. And we're talking, of course, about O.J. Simpson. Here,
Where's the movie stars? What? I thought LA was supposed to be loaded with movie stars, rock and rollers, celebrities.
Oh, honey, that's just what all Midwesterners think. LA is just like any other place.
Excuse me, ma'am, but I believe this is my bag.
Just let him have it in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Of course, mine's leatherette. And this seems to be...
Pigskin. Thank you very much.
Bruno Mali.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Hey, Mom, you know who that was?
No, honey, who?
That was... I guess I was wrong.
So, of course,
that was Nordberg from Police Squad.
Oh, Dan,
no.
Come on.
But
Here's
of
why
course,
it works on so many levels. Levels. First of all, John, may I? That is O.J. Simpson, okay? Obviously. Football player, Hall of Famer, murderer, author, run the gamut.
Yeah,
okay?
author of If I Did It.
Yes. And so, paraphernalia collector, but also he shows up as O.J. Simpson in the Hertz commercials, okay? Yes. And then he runs like the Hertz commercial and becomes an early version of Nordberg. So not only is he tripped over, but then Frankie steps on his hand.
Yes.
That is, I mean, it works on so many levels.
And right, everything that you're saying is it totally. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Hertz commercials, because that's what this is really parodying. But then, and I'm thinking, I was like, well, Paramount produced the Naked Gun movies as well as this. So could it have been that like this was his, I don't know, audition for the Naked Gun? Because he was not on the Police Squad series.
Right.
So like, you know, because especially that moment when he gets his hand stepped on, the look on his face, it's totally Nordberg.
I mean,
when was Naked Gun? Like 89?
Was that 88?
88.
It was 88. So that was right after this.
Yeah. So
wow.
So that was the first cameo. Then I have I listed Dick Dale,
right? Dick Dale,
Stevie Ray Vaughan, Austin represent, the aforementioned Bob Denver,
right?
Fishbone,
Fishbone,
in full suits on a beach doing the Jamaica ska, doing their best Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters impression.
Yes.
Well, okay, let's talk about Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters for a second, because that is the only other example that I can think of you say modern day movie, it came out in 96, and you know, That Thing You Do, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that perfectly displays the production of one of those 60s beach movies where you have like the goofball bonehead character. I think it's goofball in Weekend at Party Pier is the movie.
Yes. Weekend at Party Pier.
And
Geach
and now I just want to go watch That Thing You Do and watch that scene, because that scene is like the perfect way to celebrate that moment in time for these movies.
Hey, we're not the Wonders right now. We're Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
I love it.
So after that madness, Don Adams, who even gets to work in his catchphrase, missed it by that much.
Yeah, it is so good.
The Harbor Master.
The Harbor Master.
And he works in a couple of catchphrases. Would you believe?
Yes.
Oh, right.
The aforementioned Pee Wee Herman, Paul Rubens, which we need to kind of break out into its own discussion. Yeah. And then with the surfing contest, Barbara Billingsley, Tony Dow, Jerry Mathers, and Siskel and Ebert.
Right. Oh, what? Read Roger Ebert's review of this movie.
Are you going to read Roger Ebert's review before this episode?
I did.
Okay.
That's what I was doing about a half hour before this episode.
The decision to have Frankie and Annette and their willingness to make fun of themselves and their squeaky clean images is just one of the reasons this film is a stunning surprise. It's wonderful. The script is smart. The direction by first-time director Lyndall Hobbs, a young Australian woman who just made music videos before this, is crisp. And the best decision of all, as I said, is that Frankie and Annette have the good sense to laugh at themselves and laugh at an innocent time that is a tremendous pleasure to revisit. I had a ball with Back to the Beach.
I had a great time, too. And not only with Frankie and Annette, who were terrific, and with that little kid who was, the 12-year-old punker with the leather suit on, but Connie Stevens, who looks terrific. And then, of course, there's this completely out of the blue, totally unbilled cameo performance by Pee Wee Herman, who comes flying into the picture, sings a great rock and roll song, and then disappears. And I was sitting in the theater frankly surprised, because I practically had to sign an oath in blood with Paramount Pictures before they'd let me, or for that matter you, look at this picture. They're so afraid of it, they don't want any critics to look at it. They don't want any reviews on either of the coasts, because they're afraid, on the sophisticated coast, people won't like this movie. They're crazy. This is the best movie they've had all summer. Well, practically.
I'll tell you this, it's certainly the best movie of its kind since Grease, and maybe it's better than Grease. I'd have to match it up. It is a wonderful film. I sat there flabbergasted. I thought the beach party movies, that they were going to just do a retread. This movie had me howling.
It's an original film, and also it's an original musical. The musical numbers in this film, and there are a lot of them by Frankie and Annette and Connie Stevens and Pee Wee Herman and the reggae band and everybody else. It's a great musical and a lot of fun.
I just want to play a clip or two from them judging we're going to go first with Zed's performance.
Nice.
Well, Jer, it was well performed. It moved quickly, and the ending was exciting and original. I give it an 8. Thumbs up.
Well, as usual, Tony, I totally disagree. I found the entire ride stiff and uninspired. The ending was anticlimactic. I gave it a 6, thumbs down. It made me want to leave the beach.
So, and then Barbara Billingsley is the announcer who like keeps on messing up the big kahuna and
the big crapola.
She's holding a prop mic that she's just waving all over.
It's so weird. She clearly does not give a shit about this movie.
Amplifying just as it everywhere.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it.
So Dan, who else do we have?
Ed Burns, Kooky, lend me your comb from the 77 Sunset Strip, and he and Connie Stevens had a hit single. It was like,
and he was the valet guy.
Yeah, he was the valet.
Yeah.
He calls him Kooky. He's like, hey, yeah, he's actually the first person that
makes Frankie smile.
Is excited to see. Yeah. Because Dick Dale, as he says, we could come back in the year 2000 and Dick Dale would pour one out, by the way.
Who just passed away, yes.
But I was listening to that thinking, I was like, wow, I think in the year 2000, you probably could have found Dick Dale playing somewhere.
Frankie Avalon is still touring. Yeah. He's 80.
That is...
They don't stop.
Don't stop. Frankie Valli, as my parents...
is still touring. Yeah.
My parents are going...
Do the teens still go wild for Venus? I just have to know.
Funnily,
they scream.
Funnily enough, I just watched a clip of Venus before I got on here from American Bandstand, like old school, and it was the #1 record at the time. I guess he had received the 1 million records sold award, and the girls were going gaga. Now, I've seen Frankie perform Venus live, and I went a little gaga myself. He was in his 60s at the time, but
just a little kid.
Yeah, exactly.
How old were you?
I was 23.
So where did you see? Where did you see Frankie?
Should I get into this story
Please,
now?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Why not?
I had mentioned before the show to the gentleman that Frankie Avalon once bought me a drink, and I was grateful for that.
Was it stunned mullet?
It was not a stunned mullet. It was probably some sort of whiskey. I in my former life, before I met my wife, I had an ex-girlfriend, and she did the musical of Grease in a couple of cities where I went, and when they were in New Haven, I believe it was either New Haven or Boston, Frankie was Teen Angel. And so I saw him on stage doing Beauty School Dropout like he did in Grease. And after the show, they do kind of a star mega mix. Chubby Checker did it too, and he did the twist and the other twist and 30 other twists. But Frankie had a couple of sets that he did, and I think he did Venus that one night as well. And then afterwards, it was a cast party. Hey, how are you? How are you? And he was talking to somebody. My girlfriend at the time introduced me, shook my hand, looked me in the eye. What a gentleman. And we were just ordering drinks, and he bought us both drinks. And I said,
wonderful.
Thank you, Big Crapola.
And it's cool that... And it's cool that Chubby Checker did the twist because not everybody can do the twist. But everybody can do the ska.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. And I mean, what an opportunity for Fishbone there. Just all of a sudden, that. Saxophones blazing.
Well, what's funny is Fishbone is definitely not like a band that, like the demographic for that movie was like, we were not listening to Fishbone. And it was funny because I was like, oh, this is a fun song. And then I listened to some other Fishbone and I was like, oh, this does not sound like Jamaica ska.
No.
The only thing I can think of is I remember when Old School had come out, and a friend of mine at the time worked at William Morris when I was living in LA, and basically it had to do with like agent packaging, and so the best guess I can come up with is that they had like the same booker or same booking agent or something like that.
I was thinking about that with, like Paul Rubens and like Frankie Annette and, how they have all these other things where it's like they probably have like the same manager, and it's
Right,
just
and
like, how can we make a deal to get you in this? And,
And
you in
it's
that
all
and whatever.
packaging, and agent gets kind of a lump sum, or I don't know what the terms of the deal was or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the best kind, especially when somebody random, like Snoop had the same agent as Vince Vaughn or something like that. You know what I mean? And that's how they got into old school, and so it was just kind of a package deal kind of thing. But I don't. There is nothing to back that up. It's just a true assumption.
Fair enough.
Well, these days you have to say that, you know.
Is there anybody, are we missing any other cameos?
I tried to write down pretty
Yeah.
much everybody, and we could be like, I mean, obviously there's Lori Loughlin, but she was an actress in the movie.
No,
It's
not a cameo,
you know?
just a performance.
I mean, there are definitely other cast members worth mentioning. Tommy Hinckley as Michael, and
who, by the way, has the smallest nipples on the planet. I know that this isn't that kind of podcast, but it deserves, like, there was one point where we were watching it last night and I had to pause it and be like, is it just me, or does he have the teeniest little nipples in the world? So, anyway.
Do not edit that out.
I'm not editing that out. Are you kidding me? I said it.
Okay.
I stand by it.
I had a moment where I forgot. I was like, there's another cast member I wanted to mention, but David Bowe, who our
David Bowe,
listeners
yeah.
probably know from UHF as Bob.
He's the surf report guy. He's great.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
he's been in a lot. He's done a lot of work. Yeah.
He has a lot of fun in this. He kind of plays. He's almost like Michael McKean in Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah,
you know,
he's
that
your
kind of
stereotypical
guy.
surfer. Yeah,
Surfer
dude.
burnout. Yeah.
Incidentally, Michael McKean has done every high form of entertainment there is to do. He is legendary in so many mediums, and the man still doesn't have an Emmy. Like, doesn't have any sort of award. Laverne and Shirley, Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I was wondering
all
if he
the
got
Christopher
nominated
Guest
for
movies.
Better Call Saul at least.
He's
He
been
got
nominated.
I think,
He's been
last year. He never
nominated,
won.
Michael
and
McKean
that's-
is a bit, like you said.
I don't think he cares. I get the impression that he is
with
like,
a career like his, why would you? You
Yeah.
know, think about it. Think about the length of that breadth of work that he's done.
Oh yeah.
Clue, Spinal Tap,
Yeah.
Laverne
He's
and
a legend.
Shirley, everything comes. It's
Earth Girls Are
mind-boggling.
Easy.
Earth Girls Are Easy. Hello.
Earth Girls Are
Yeah,
Easy. Right. What else? What else do we need to talk about in this movie here? I feel like there's so much. Oh, another thing with just having a good in and package deal, getting to use the John Williams Indiana Jones music,
right? During
for
the surfing, the ending surfing scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
and they make no bones about that at all. It's just this is the screen in the back. But it's the same screen when he does the car commercial as it is when he rides the wave.
Yes,
exactly.
Which I love, and I hope that was like intentional to set that
It
up.
had to be.
And
Yes.
I love the guy who goes up to get an autograph and then just like dives into the water again.
Yeah, I'm like,
And he's perfectly dry when he comes out of the ocean.
it's like, are we supposed to be? We're impressed with the big Kahuna. Meanwhile, this badass
this
is
guy.
swimming up in the middle of the Humunga Cowabunga from down under to get an autograph, and then and he keeps it dry. And come on, that's
So good.
He deserves control of the beach.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give that guy the beach.
Yeah. Oh, it's wonderful.
Maybe he was a
Well,
merman.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's so much to talk about, and I do like. I know you might want to move on, but that Pee Wee Herman thing.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute.
Yes, let's talk surf and burn.
We got to get on that a little bit because he comes out of like there's nothing to set it up,
No.
except the party, and then he's gone.
I mean, he glows and shoots off into the atmosphere.
Like he sings, he comes in, sings Surf and Bird,
Yeah.
and that's it.
But they didn't need to do anymore because they put his ass on the poster. They put Pee-wee in the advertising front and center, so you didn't have to set it up because, I mean, like there we were at the Blue Star Cinema at Watchung, New Jersey in 1987.
Waiting for Pee-wee.
Yes. Yes, sitting in the audience and just waiting. It's like the rest of it was fun. The rest of it was great. But it was, where's Pee-wee? Where's where I remember thinking that and like hearing like somebody else in the theater saying it, like, where's Pee-wee? And
well, you know, and this is a situation where when that movie came out, I was 4, which is my daughter's current age. And
God bless you.
She has not been to see a movie in the theater, and I certainly know that I was in the theater for this movie. And that was, you know, a situation where it's like I'm the youngest of 3 children, and my mother isn't going to like do something with some kids and leave the others with somebody. You know, it was just like
Not
all
your
or
mother.
nothing, all
No.
or nothing. So,
No.
and it was like, yeah, and it was like watching that movie. Laura, my wife, turned to me and said, knowing that you watch this so young and so frequently explains everything.
Well, because if you think about the Pee Wee Herman segment and the movie as a whole, it's basically a fever dream inside of a fever dream.
It's a fever. The whole movie is a fever dream come true. Because it's
that is the tagline right there, a fever dream come true.
Because it's just like what if you would just expect for it to not make sense, it is exactly what you need. Yeah. And it's fun, it's ridiculous. A lot of these jokes, like they're not for kids, and I don't mean that in the way that they're for adults. They're for specific adults.
Yeah.
But also you have to think about it. Even acknowledged that it was an 80s movie in some of its references. Like they referenced Oprah poorly, I might add.
Yes,
you know,
I didn't
but
love
Oprah,
that.
Oprah 1987.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was uncomfortable now knowing that Oprah rules the world. But, you know, whoever the writer was on that, you know, I don't know what he's doing now, but yeah, I mean, these references, and they're few and far between because most of it's kind of callbacks and everything like that, but it does still acknowledge it in the 80s world by some of its references as it moves through.
Yeah, and also it's kind of important to note that like in 1987 there was certainly this big like resurgence of like surf culture.
Yeah.
And you know, like
MTV, MTV
also
Summer,
it's like,
all that stuff.
I mean, I wasn't a surfer when I was a child, but I wore like Ocean Pacific and gotcha clothes and stuff like that. Like it was just part of how we all lived because there was just
sixth,
a boom.
7th grade. It was like Ocean Pacific and Billabong, and I had a boogie board and wetsuit and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So
because I lived at the shore. I lived at the Jersey Shore.
Yeah,
you know,
the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Down the shore.
Before we move on to how this could come back, is there anything else that we need to touch on? There's just so much that happens in this movie.
And I mean, that's the thing is it doesn't, it sounds like we're bouncing around a lot, but there's no real, I mean, it is relatively linear, but it's kind of, it's just a bunch of gags. It's just a bunch of gags.
I got it. One thing. Okay. So I love when there's the pajama party going on. The one guy, you just hear the one guy.
You need a pajama party.
But like, you just hear this one guy all of a sudden go like, "Hey, a pajama party," and then like. At a certain point later, they're just like, "What should we do?" And someone's like, "A pajama party?"
Yes.
And there's, I don't know if it's the same person, but like, I think it's like as Annette is getting on stage to like sing with Fishbone or something, you hear someone, or maybe like right after you hear someone in the crowd, "We love you, Annette."
Yeah. It's great.
Damian Slade, that's his name?
Yeah.
If you look at his IMDb page, not much of a career. Beyond.
Not much of an acting career. He seems to have been making his name for himself in other fields.
And I believe he is probably very talented doing that.
Look, if he's listening, I just want him to know I respect the hell out of him. 2 performances, 2 very memorable performances.
One absolutely iconic performance and one performance with iconic individuals. Absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Okay, so Ray, what would you do to bring this movie back?
So this is Back to the Beach.
Yeah.
It's already a reboot, rehash, sequel, all of that, right? And at first the mind goes to, well, it's a musical, we could put it on stage, but how do you do that? And I kind of started thinking about it, and I'm like, there's two kind of things two kind of genres I was thinking of going with it, and a cartoon, right? I could see this as a cartoon with pick your celebrity du jour of stage, again, just rolling with the theme and having a cartoon beach kind of beach party, right? It could be SpongeBob-esque in its characters, because you have a range of opportunities now to bring in different characters and things, and because it's animated, right? And on that note, it could involve Mr. Rubens, now in his 60s.
But still killing it.
Yeah, but something like Pee-wee's Beach Adventures, kind of along the lines of Freddy's Nightmares, where he comes into the beginning, introduces it, and spins off a tale.
That I like.
And so he could bookend the episode, right? And then have a unique tale be told. Now, that could be done live action. It could be done cartoon, but it's got to be done with music. It's got to be done in the style of your Beach Boys, that sort of thing. And all take place on the end of this, mystical island called Los Angeles, that kind of thing.
Well, and if you're doing this,
that's kind of where I was going.
If you're doing this as like an anthology where it's more like different stories, then you could even have it in different formats, and you could have an episode that's animated.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's kind of where, because I took this kind of Pee-wee, because he has no dialogue. He has no introduction point, no exit point except going to space, right? And it could be him coming back on his magic surfboard and kind of just introducing us into these new characters and complications. And you have a goofball character, and you have this, and you have these tropes. And so really that's the only kind of, because you're not going to, Annette, pour one out. She's passed on, and Frankie's 80, and, where are we going to go with that? So you kind of take the theme and spin it out.
Right.
So
I like it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Dan?
A fun anthology of beach. First of all, first I want to say that I think that the idea of, I'll say, SpongeBob Beach Party, like I could actually see them doing that. I could actually see that as a good idea for like a SpongeBob movie.
Well, I'm just thinking about and in like the first SpongeBob movie, I think I might have seen it, and like David Hasselhoff is like a big figure in it.
Yeah, so I think it's taking some of those tropes as is, and
okay.
I SpongeBob is its own thing, but in that genre, in that vein, instead of in a pineapple under the sea, actually on a beach, that kind of thing,
Yeah. So first I want to start with my idea for it, because like we said, we're not really bringing back the original cast here. Is Lori Loughlin still in prison, or what's
I believe she's pleading out. I believe she's cut a deal.
Anyway, so in 1989, however, I have one idea, and this was for the Back to the Beach Part 2 that never was in 1989 or thereabouts. So Frankie and Annette having rediscovered the magic, and they realize that just like life in the Midwest is like sucking the life out of them. So they move back to LA, and Frankie tries to get back into the music business and make a comeback album, but things are really different. The way that things are in like late 80s, like MTV cultures, so things are really different. Meanwhile, Annette and Connie become business partners. They team up, whether it's in like with the bar or like, I don't know, Michael's surf shop or whatever. Sandy and Michael are finally about to get married. They're having cold feet about it though. So that of course leads to all of the, the circumstances, because you got to bring back all the things where Sandy's going to she's going to go up and I'm going to show him. And so you've got that. And then Bobby, who's in high school, is he's finding his first love, and does he
still have the miniature hair helmet?
Of course.
Also, is his first love's name Shirley?
Yes. No, I don't. I did not write that down. But and he's drumming for a local band, so you kind of see him starting to follow in his father's footsteps.
May I interject for a second and ask a question with regard to the Bobby character and the comb?
Yes.
Did he not have the same comb in Better Off Dead? Didn't he
totally
have the switchblade
He
comb?
did,
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So that was kind of his thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Absolutely. So then I jotted a few different ideas, but it was funny, Ray, that you mentioned Freddy Krueger because I was thinking of kind of like alternate ways that they could have made Back to the Beach. And I was thinking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare, which kind of blends reality because it's like Heather Langenkamp playing herself. And then there's like there's like Robert Englund playing himself, but also Freddy Krueger. And I was like, what if it had been made like that, where like Frankie and Annette come back to, and this is like the alternative Back to the Beach, where they come back to the California beaches for an event and they end up like living out what feels like a plot from one of their movies. And I was like, you could totally also make that as its own film, as a standalone, and kind of like I wrote Twilight Zone-esque, where, which then also threw me into thinking about actually another movie we'd been talking about, Pleasantville. John and I had been talking about it on our Rebel Without a Cause episode. And I was thinking, I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if you have like, you start off with this, you know, a rebellious teen, as we would have called them back in the days, a latchkey kid,
Right.
Who
Guilty.
maybe has, you know, maybe, and I'm like, I went everywhere from this. I was actually thinking like Eddie Furlong in Terminator 2, like that type, like maybe a kid in the foster system, or maybe a kid just kind of like who has a lot of time on his own because of whatever his parent or parents have to do. Kind of like in the movie Pleasantville. I think it's their mom that they live with, but she's kind of always she's always out. So I was thinking, like, what if you have this kid and he's into surfing, and this is in present day, or maybe this part is set in the 80s, and then you have him like he bumps his head, and when he's revived, you know, he's in the 60s. He's kind of like how Pleasantville, he's in that show. This kid wakes up and he's in like maybe his one thing, maybe I don't know, maybe like his mom isn't around, his mom left, and like the one thing he remembers with his mom was like they used to watch these beach movies whenever they would come on TV, and it would be really fun. And he winds
WandaVision style.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I guess so. I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't make that connection, but totally makes sense.
But we had this discussion years and years ago, Dan. Like everything is eventually derivative, right?
Yes.
Everything is derivative of something else.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't mean it's not an original idea.
Oh.
It just means that we got it from somewhere, you know?
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean, I'm sitting here referencing Pleasantville in every other sentence.
Yes.
But because it's brilliant. But I was like, you have this kid who kind of like, who ends up in this like weird alternate, beach movie world, that turns out to be so much more confusing than the real world because nothing makes sense ever. Wait a second. Why is there a monkey driving a Rolls Royce? Why is there a monkey driving a Rolls Royce? What is happening?
You maniacs!
Wait a second.
What have you done?
Wait, did something just push me over? How did I got knocked over? Wait a second. She shook her ass at me and that knocked me over. Yeah. That happens. That happens. There is a girl
there's
with
not
a magical
like a
ass.
connection made. It's just like the shockwave is sent through the air.
Yep. So
she sends like an electromagnetic pulse that
it's an energetic ass right there.
Takes the world off its axis.
So anyway, John, just I had a couple of other little ideas. I had like, you could try to like make a pastiche beach movie, kind of like a down with love or machete type. Yeah. Or I was like, what if you actually had a movie where one of the characters in these movies it's years later, but you play it as realistic, and like they have to answer for their actions, and it's like Bonehead, like all of a sudden Bonehead gets dragged in by the police because they were like, we found this body from 30 years ago, and it was, you're
Bonehead, how do you plead?
Dark, man.
I want to go True Detective. I want to go totally True Detective with it, but have it be like Bonehead and
Bonehead the serial killer.
Or he's been like framed for murder. Yeah.
By Goofball, obviously.
Yeah, by Goofball, yeah. His Weekend at Party Pier counterpart.
Yeah. You could go full real and have like, Eric Von Zipper and the rats, and I don't know, like drug trafficking, like a real California biker gang.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, John, how would you go back to the beach?
Yes. So, Dan, something that you and I were texting about, really stuck with me, and we'll go into that after I kind of finish kind of going through this here. So what I have in mind is a satirical throwback, and this is it takes place in like the early 60s in like Santa Monica or whatever, and it's completely in the style of those like beach bikini movies. And in this movie, there's no Frankie Annette, but it's a very Frankie and Annette kind of thing. So we meet some teeny boppers who don't seem to have a care in the world, but when the city decides to start charging a bikini tax, the gang is outraged as they feel targeted.
Oh my God.
You're laughing because you know that this is like a scrapped idea for an actual one of these movies.
Spot on.
Yeah. So they feel targeted. So they decide to take their surfing and beach parties further south and end up at a spot designated for black beachgoers. So that's right, Dan, your eyes. That's right. We are in the time of segregation, and they've chosen to kind of move into this beach that is designated for the black folks in the area. So they soon discover that the area has smaller swells, coarser sand, poor acoustics for their impromptu songs, and realizing that there's been a great injustice, this crew tries to fight for the rights of the black beachgoers, especially now that it impacts them. And their complaints keep getting bumped up from city to county to state to federal, and goes to the Supreme Court in a historic case, Surfers on Behalf of Black People versus Discrimination. So it's the white saviors of these teeny bopper beachgoers. And I think that, like, I don't know, I mean, back a while ago, this would have been a good, like, Keenan Ivory Wayans type movie, something like that. What do you have to say, Dan?
Would you call it Freedom Surfers? Oh, Jesus. Freedom Riders? No, actually, that's what they would call it. Freedom Surfers, yeah.
White Sand Beach.
I know you said the Wayans, but I would love to see Spike Lee. And I know there's other filmmakers, but maybe it's just because I've been rewatching a lot of Spike Lee movies recently.
Yeah.
What about Jordan Peele?
Jordan Peele, yeah. See, the thing is, what Dan and I noticed is like, where are the black people? And Dan was like, well, they are performing music. They're like in the bands performing music, and that's like pretty much it. And that's when we were just like, oh. Then I sent him a picture of Fishbone playing on the beach, because in Back to the Beach, you really only see, Fishbone, and then when Pee Wee Herman comes out, he's being carried out by these two buff black men.
Point of order, Mr. Simpson was in the beginning of the movie.
Oh, sorry, O.J. Simpson, an actual murderer.
Yes, which is just terrible. Yes.
Who's just there for a,
as a cameo.
Yeah. So okay, you're right. I'm sorry.
There are no black characters.
They're
in these movies.
No.
Agreed.
So, but like we were saying, it's like the people who are playing the music for the white people, or the people who are carrying out the white characters on a surfboard. And no bueno.
But I like how your idea
uncomfortable.
But I like how your idea gets into it. Sorry. Woo! Critical race theory alert. The like systemic racism in infrastructure and yeah.
Well,
that's fascinating.
And the tricky part that I was thinking is like, what could be the thing that makes them move? And, you know, we said like the bikini tax, because it's like they feel like they're being targeted and they're being wronged for
they're
this
the
like
victims. Yeah.
So, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, and so rather than actually helping them, they take it upon themselves to become the heroes of the story. Right. So anyway,
and they're all boneheads.
There is a come to Jesus moment at some point in this film, one would assume.
Maybe not. Maybe
it is completely tone deaf through the whole way.
Right, because it's because
these characters don't learn a lesson or anything like that.
No, because the point is that you, the audience, are there to put the pieces together, and of course, in the hands of the right director and writer, that's where it
if you really hit the right satirical notes with this, I'm thinking kind of like the tone of a Serial Mom. Bamboozled. When I think of Spike Lee, also like Bamboozled or School Days, which is pretty much a musical.
Guys, I mean, these are phenomenal ideas, but when we're talking commercial here, the cartoon wins. I mean, we're talking about making money here, gentlemen.
It's the Damian Slade Variety Hour.
We're talking about making art here. Maybe you're
Squeeze
talking
that
about
kid
money.
for every dime he's worth. $2.
No, way more than that. Come on.
Sad.
That'll be his catchphrase. Good night, folks. $2.
I did get one. I got a spark of an idea, John, when you started describing yours, and that would be the Santa Carla Beach Party. It would be also a Lost Boys prequel that would be set in the 60s.
Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Santa Clara.
No, it's Santa Carla.
It is Santa Carla.
And the Lost Boys.
That's what I always hated about
Carla.
Santa Carla. Yeah. All those damn vampires.
God damn it.
Yeah, because I think Santa Clara is a real place. Yes.
You're right. I'm wrong. Hey, like Jerry Orbach says, when I'm wrong, I say I'm wrong.
Yeah. But I don't know what it was that made me think that, but I was like, wouldn't it be funny if you had like a beach movie where it's the vampires who are trying to, and maybe that's where you have with the Edward Herrmann character from The Lost Boys.
Right.
Yeah. Although I guess he wouldn't be younger. He would be the same.
No, it'd be the same age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
anyway, I think we've done it, folks.
We have made a dent, I feel.
Yeah, you, the listener, if you have any thoughts about Back to the Beach, hit us up, ruinchildhoodspod@gmail.com, and on our socials. Ray, do you have anything that you want to mention? A TV show you like, something that's going on in your world that
what do you want to tell us about?
Let us know about, yeah.
All right, sure. Why not? I have nothing. No, this was a lot of fun, guys, and I hope I didn't embarrass myself or you guys in our spirited discussion.
Your audition's been going okay. I'm not
You know what? From when I used to be an actor, that's some of the best feedback I've ever gotten. Thank you very much.
We'll let you know.
I bet you will.
We'll call your representation.
Yes, call my people.
Yeah.
No, I mean things are going very well down here in Austin, Texas. Very happy with everything that's happening outside of the whole, raging pandemic that's happening down here with no real responsibility. We're living our good life here. Christine's got a wonderful job at the historic Paramount Theater.
Yes.
So please, patronize that if you're in Austin. And I'm working at a wonderful place called the Campus on Lake Austin. That is a facility that supports and services groups for the Holdsworth Center, which is a nonprofit that strengthens Texas public educators here in the state of Texas. And so we manage the groups for them and also bring in some third-party events that help fund their mission. So any questions about that you have, you can go to holdsworthcenter.org, or you can visit our campus at campusonlakeaustin.com. It's a beautiful campus, and also we do weddings, we do corporate retreats, but primarily we're there to service and support the Holdsworth Center.
Well, Ray, I have some bad news for you. If anybody's listened this far into a podcast about Back to the Beach, they don't care about education.
What?
Come on now.
I beg to differ.
I'm kidding.
Well, if they care about the arts, which obviously, if they're listening to this, they do.
No. Look, I'm glad that you mentioned that stuff, and I hope that people do check it out.
Yeah, it's a great mission, and I know obviously you have listeners that are not all located here in Texas, but it's finally nice to be able to be doing something that supports a good cause and not just an owner's bottom line. So
yeah, totally.
Yeah, hey, absolutely.
Ray, I just want you to guess what we're gonna do on our next episode. I'll give you 1,000 guesses. You'll never get it.
Never.
Oh my God. Well, it's obviously not going to be Real Genius or One Crazy Summer or Karate Kid.
Maybe
you would have been notified.
Yeah.
Yes. Why waste the time? Just let me have it.
Do it, Dan.
We are going to be taking a look, both of us, by the way, both John and I, for the very first time at 2008's action thriller starring Nicolas Cage, Bangkok Dangerous.
What? Why? You know what? Okay. On
Why
our
not?
last episode,
Why not?
On our last episode, we looked at a true classic. On this episode, last episode was Rebel Without a Cause. It hasn't come out by the time when they were recording this.
Yes, I know. I listened to Scarface today.
Right. So we did Scarface, Rebel Without a Cause. Back to the Beach, which is a classic for at least me and Dan. It's a classic. And then we were just like, you know what? Hard Left Turn.
I mean, off a cliff, hard left turn.
Well,
yeah, but probably landing safely though.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah. And you know what? This is a movie that I feel like is talked about purely in jest, and I feel like it's time for us to explore.
Was this one of the many Nicolas Cage IO Taxes movie?
I don't think so. I think this was a little bit higher profile.
Okay.
It's hard to tell when those...
I remember hearing the title. I know nothing about it.
It's hard to know when those stopped and when the Nicolas Cage just wants to have fun doing Nicolas Cage things.
Yes.
Which I haven't seen Pig yet, but I'm intrigued by it and really wanna
filmed
see it.
largely here in Portland, so check it out.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, so we're doing Bangkok Dangerous. So I'm excited. I think it's our first Nicolas Cage star, and very excited to dig into this. It's a remake of a 1999 Thai film, also called Bangkok Dangerous, remade by the same filmmakers, the Pong brothers.
Gotcha. Well, Dan, Ray, as you both compete on the Humunga Cowabunga from Down Under, I wish you both good journeys.
Hold on. Instead of competing on that, can I, as I ride off into space on my handlebarred surfboard?
One more little thing to cut in here before you say. Not only does he say sing bird is the word, but he just cuts in with random surf expressions.
Yeah.
Like tubular,
hang
radical,
9,
like,
hang 10.
Yeah.
What? Sorry.
Okay. Good journey, guys.
Good journey.
If everybody had a 12 gauge and a surfboard too, you'd see them shooting and surfing, hear them Malibu, because it's totally bitchin', riding waves to blast clay pigeons, and it's so neat shooting ski while you're riding up